Welcome to Physics with Mr. Brazil. Today we're going to determine the depth of a sinkhole using an instrument that has a microphone to pick up the sound of an iron ball dropped from the same height hitting the bottom of the sinkhole. The speed of sound is 343 meters per second, and the time of the return sound from the ball hitting is 4.17 seconds. Well, we should always sketch, so let's sketch the side of the sinkhole, and I'm going to call it y final because it's up and down, and I'm going to say that that total length is y final. Well, the ball would start at the top, and I'm going to put a coordinate plane, and it's going to drop down. Well, I'm going to use the kinematic equation in the y direction. Y final equals y initial plus v y naught for the iron ball times time plus 1/2 g t squared. I'm going to call t iron, I for iron, so ti for the iron ball. And I'm going to call this tfi. And since it's negative, I'm going to make it negative. So what do we have here? Well, we know that the ball is going to be dropped at a start of 0. Also, since it's a ball that's being dropped, it has no initial velocity. And we now can rewrite this equation as y final I, so make that look like a y, I equals negative 1/2 gt I squared. Also, remember, g is a negative 9.80 meters per second squared because it's going downward, it's gravity. So let's now take into account sound. I'm going to choose a different color. So sound is going to come from hitting the bottom of the sinkhole. So that's going to go upward. Okay, and so that's going to be a positive y, fs for sound, y naught, plus v sound times t for the time of sound. Yeah, two separate times. I'll explain that later. Plus 1/2 a sound t sound squared. Well, now let's look what we have here. We have y initial 0 at the bottom. We also know that sound is a constant. It doesn't speed up, or you would hear different frequencies or sounds. So I'm just going to say 0. And now in this case, the y final sound is equal to Vs times the time of sound. Now, if you look at this, both, change that color, both YF iron is equal to YF sound. We can now make these two equations equal to each other. So let's kind of give me a little room because I'm going to need it to do some other things. So I'm going to squeak this up a little bit and move it up right about here. All right, so let's write this up. So we're going to have negative, let's get the pen back up, negative 1/2 g t iron squared equal to Vs t, S for sound. Now we have two different times. Well, here's how we can handle this. Time, the 4.17 seconds, that's the total time. Well, that's equal to the time that the iron ball falls plus the time that the sound travels upwards. So that's equal to 4.17 seconds. Well, with that knowledge, what we can do is that we can solve for either T iron or T sound. I would solve for the T sound because that T iron is going to square up everything. It's going to make it longer and a little harder to solve for. So I'm just going to go T. Let's erase that. So T sound equals 4.17 minus ti. Now, I'm not going to use units because it's just going to confuse everything. I'm going to plug that in. So I'm going to rewrite this over here. So I'm going to have negative 1/2 g t I squared equals Vs times 4.17 minus Ti, and that's going to be a distribution. And as soon as I see that T squared, I'm going to need the quadratic equation later. And that's a good thing, because then I can use that to put into either the purple equation or the black equation. I think it's the black equation that I'm going to use. So let's go. So I'm going to rewrite this 1/2 gt squared I equals 4.17 Vs minus Vs Ti. And sure enough, I can make this in terms of I. So this is going to be 0 equals, and I'm just going to move the 1/2 over to the other side. So 1/2 g ti squared minus Vs ti plus the 4.17 seconds. Well, if I plug in my values, I'm going to do that up here. So I plug in my values. I now have 0 equals 1/2 negative 9.8 Ti squared minus 343 Ti. And then I'm going to multiply 4.17 times Vs. So that's going to give me 1430.3. Okay, so 343 times 4.17, that equals 1430.3, if you didn't get that. All right, now I have my quadratic equation. I can actually use Ti equals, so it's a minus, so that's going to be 343 plus or minus, I'll put my fraction bar, square root, I make that huge, negative 343 squared minus 4. And since it's 1/2 negative 9.8, I know that that's negative 4.90 times 1430.3. And so it's 2 times a, so 1/2 minus 9.0. Okay, and the 2 times that I get for that, Ti is equal to 3.95 seconds, or T iron ball is equal to negative 73.9 seconds. So that's not going to work. Now, what can I do with this? Well, I can plug this into Y final I equals negative 1/2 GTI squared. What that's going to give me, and I'm going to write this all out so that you have it, it's going to give me the depth of squared of the sinkhole. And back that up, 3.95 seconds, square it, and the depth will be 76.5 meters. Keep studying physics and enjoy.